YouTube? My name is Mike. Today we're going to be making chili. My twist on the backwoods style chili. Everybody makes their own type of chili. Some people make it from scratch. And some people use cans, which is what we're going to be doing today. It makes the process quicker and gives it a lot of flavor and saves you a lot of time. So here are some of the ingredients. Come take a look at the ingredients that we're going to be using today. We're going to be using ginger, cumin, turmeric, coriander seed, a little bit of cayenne, chili powder, black pepper, this is salt, onions, clove of onions. We're going to be using some beef, ground beef, head of garlic, and then we're going to use our diced fire roasted tomatoes, diced green chilies. I chose Bush's beans. They have really good flavor, brown sugar and hickory. Kidney beans, Kentelly, white beans basically, and black beans. Red beans, white beans, black beans. Doesn't matter what brand you use. It's just what I happen to have on hand. And you know, it works. So, alright, so we're going to start by, I cook everything in a pot. You know, I use a non-stick pot, makes everything easier. Stuff doesn't stick to the bottom and doesn't burn. We're going to start with putting some avocado oil in there. Put about, like so, just enough to cover the bottom. The ground beef and the beef will have fat in there, so you really don't need to go crazy on oil. I just do it so initially it doesn't, it doesn't burn. And you can start with putting your beef in there. The pot is preheated, so usually you want to preheat it a little bit. Here, we're going to put it on high alert. We're going to put some ground beef in there. You can put as much or as little of meat in there as you want. If you want to make a vegetarian chili, you can. Just use spiced vegetables. Use more beans. It'll be more of a bean-based chili. I've tried veggie chili before. It's alright. It's just when you're cooking with beef, you have that unique flavor that you can't get with the veggie chili. Not to say that vegetarian chili is not good, it's just beef is beef. So you cook it, just brown it slightly. Then once it's browned slightly, what we're going to do is we're going to add all the spices into it. None of the beef or the onions or anything need to really reduce, because when you're cooking chili, it's going to cook for a couple of hours. So when it's done, it's going to have like this silky smooth, you won't be able to tell that the onions in there, everything's going to be cooked out and turned into flavor. So as it's starting to cook, you can go ahead and do a little bit of salt. With salt, we can probably do like probably half a tablespoon to start. And then it's always best to undersalt it initially, then oversalt it. Because when you oversalt something, that's really hard to fix. When you undersalt something, as the chili starts getting ready, you can taste, and then you can add seasoning to your palate, basically, to your taste. So you got to be really careful with salt, and you got to be really careful with your spices, because when you overspice it, then it just, it's really hard to correct. So underspicing is always best. And then at the end, you can add salt or pepper or whatever you think it needs. So, all right, so we're going to let it slightly brown, and we're going to start adding the rest of our ingredients later on. Alright, so we had the meat brown a little bit. Come take a look inside the pot here. That's about where it really needs to be. You can see there's some liquid and stuff. With my chili, I don't add any water in there. All the water content comes from all the product. You know, I'll use the beans and I'll use the juice from the beans. You know, and it works. It works. So we'll go ahead at this point, add the clove of garlic. So put that in there. We'll go ahead and add the, I know it kind of seems that it's a lot of onion, the whole head of onion, but you won't even know it was there when the chili's going to be done cooking. As it will cook out and it will just turn into basically flavor. So I'll mix that in a little bit. Mix that in a little bit. And it's starting to smell good. The garlic's coming out. The onion's coming out. So we'll mix it and we'll let it sit for just a little bit. And then we'll come back and we'll start adding our dry spices. And then we'll let that cook in a little bit, and then after that we'll start adding the rest of the beans and the peppers and the tomatoes and the. All right, so we'll let the onions reduce a little bit. You can see some of the liquids, you know, really starting to come out from all the onions and the meat. So some of you might be asking, well, Mike, you know, wouldn't it taste better if you browned the steak a little bit, you know, in a skillet maybe, before you incorporate into the chili? Maybe so, but my chili, what I'm trying to do here is, when it's done, the meat, the ground beef, you'll, even looking at it, it won't look like it's there. You know, it's going to be so tenderized and so, you know, smooth, and then the steak, you know, you'll know the steak is there, but the steak will be so infused in flavor and color, and it will just basically melt in your mouth. I mean, it's going to be that tender, you know. So frying it wouldn't really, you know, you won't even, you know, wouldn't add anything to it really, because you won't be able to tell when the whole thing is done. All right, so let's get to ginger. You know, again, you know, you can add as little or as much of the stuff as you want. You know, it depends on your flavor, your palate. So I'll add just a tiny bit. Ginger. Again, if you've never used these spices before, I strongly recommend you taking it very easy. You know, it's okay that you under season. You can fix that. When you over season, that's hard to fix. So everything's still on high heat. A little bit of turmeric. I love turmeric. Don't worry about the chili turning kind of yellow initially. Once it's cooked out, it will be chili color, so no worries. But turmeric will definitely add to flavor. So, oops. Yeah, we got some coriander seed crushed, just a little bit.
About half a teaspoon?
About half a teaspoon or so, yeah. Cayenne pepper, it will give it some heat. This chili is going to be mild, so we're not going to do a lot. Just like so. Just a little dash. Little dash in there, because keep in mind that the cumin and coriander and turmeric, you know, they're spicy also. Gonna have a peppery. Mix it a little bit here. So you can see it's turning a little yellow. Don't let that worry you. That's from turmeric. That'll be just fine. Let's add some pepper. We're gonna do a little dash of pepper, black pepper. And your basic, just coarse ground. Doesn't matter what brand. Just a little dash. And we're gonna mix it in. Mix it in. Oh, the flavors. The smell is fantastic, and I wish you guys could smell this stuff. I mean, so far it's beautiful. Can't wait till it's done. So you mix it, and at this point you can start adding your ingredients. I start with diced green chilies. Doesn't matter what brand, you can just get your generic brand. Dump the whole thing in there with all the juices and everything. Here's a can that's not upside down. You can tell it's mild, you know. Pay attention, some of them will be hot, some will be mild. I'm making mild chili because the kids, you know, they don't like the heat too much, so you know, go ahead and put 3 cans in there. This is the larger can. They make them about, you know, you can get them this size, you know, or the bigger one. So I got the bigger one.
How many ounces?
7-ounce cans. I put 3 in there. You know, it gives a good flavor. You know, I like it. You know, mix it in there. Alright, we'll go ahead and start with our tomatoes too. So go ahead and, this is your garlic flavored. Trying to find the 14.5-ounce cans of tomatoes. All the juices, everything goes in there. We're going to start out with 2 cans and we'll add the rest later, because we don't want to take too much away from the cooking heat. You know, because when you add everything at once, it cools the whole thing down, and you know, you don't want to. You want it to keep cooking. So we'll add more later. We'll add chili powder almost at the end. And again, when you add this stuff, you know, the most important thing about cooking well, delicious meals, is try to taste as much as you can, you know, pretty much at every process. You know, I don't need to taste this because I know how it tastes at this point. I've made it so many times. But if you're making this, you know, it's your first time, you know, just take a little, you know, teaspoon, just taste it, see if, you know, if it needs more salt, if it needs more pepper, you know. If it needs more, you know, the ginger or cumin or turmeric or cayenne, maybe you like your chili super hot, nothing wrong with that. You know, so taste is important. Alright, so we'll let this simmer a little bit, let it heat up more. Bring it back up to a boil, and then we'll add some more stuff to it. Alright, so we're cooking it to about, you know, this consistency. It's kind of soupy, thick, which is where we want it. So you know, it's just fine. At this point, we'll go ahead and add one of the ingredients that was left out was smoked paprika. You know, I like the flavor. Again, doesn't matter what brand you get. You know, we'll go ahead and add a dash of that. It gives it color and it's just goodness. Go ahead and mix some of that in there. Alright, so in go our beans. Our kidney beans. Red kidney beans, everything, all the juices. And we got our white beans, and then we got our Bush's chili beans, black. And as you can see, our pot's filling up, so this will make full pot. But yeah, it's looking good, looking really good actually. So nice and hot. Alright, we'll go ahead and add our can of Bush's. And you don't have to use Bush's, I mean, you can, whatever, you know, flavor you like. You know, it's completely up to you. This is kind of my thing, the flavors I like. See, you know, I didn't add any water in here. All the liquid that you see is out of the product, you know, which will make this nice and thick and rich in flavor, because water will cut flavor so much. Sometimes, you know, the chilies end up tasting bland, you know, like it'll look good but there'll be hardly any flavor, and that's why, because people cut it too much with water and dilute the flavor so much that it doesn't really taste like anything. So we'll go ahead and let this come up to a boil, and after that we'll go ahead and taste it, and if it tastes good we'll go ahead and add our chili powder to it. Alright, so got my tasting spoon here. You know, at this point you kind of dip it in there and get a little bit out of the liquid. Oh, it's perfect. It's really good. You want to taste for your spices, for your salt, for the sweetness. At this point I probably will not use the second can of Bush's beans, but I will use another can of tomatoes to give it a little bit more acidity. And then we'll go ahead and add our chili powder. Let's go ahead and do that now. Man, that was pretty good. Flavor, which is awesome. And as you can see, it's no longer, you know, yeller. From that turmeric, it's beginning to build its color, you know, of looking like chili actually. So mix those tomatoes in, and we'll go ahead and add our chili powder. So we'll just sprinkle it on top, like so.
About a tablespoon.
Usually when I cook for this pot size, this is a 7-ounce bottle of chili powder, and I'd use about maybe this much for this pot. It smells really delicious, you know, really good stuff. Let's give it a quick taste here. So at this point, bring it back up to a boil, and then after it boils, turn your stove onto low setting, and we're going to cover it, and we're going to let it cook. How long will it cook? You know, I like to cook it, keep it on there for at the minimum half an hour. You know, the longer you cook it, the more flavor it will develop, the more tender the meat will become. You know, so that's completely up to you. But we'll check in on it here in a little bit. And right now it's 10:24, and we'll keep it on here for about a half hour. Also, the key is you gotta mix it often, so don't just set it and walk away. I think it's hot enough, so we'll yank it down to low. Cover it. Don't close it all the way. You want to make sure some steam escapes. And all right, so it is 12 noon, so it's been simmering here for a while. Let's see how it looks like. And as you can see, it's got plenty of liquid. Look at that. So it looks done to me. Usually what I do at this point is let it sit, you know, for about 15 minutes or so, and then it's ready to serve. As it sits for about 15 minutes or so, give it a chance to thick up so it won't be so thin. But here you go. Some good chili. You know, put some cheese on top, put some onions on top.